Okay, we're going to start on our second wing here. See our other videos for the first wing. So we've learned a couple things doing the first wing, and hopefully this one will be just a little bit easier. Obviously our next step here is EkoFill, but of course prior to that step we're just going to make sure everything is nice and clean. I'm going to go back over and just run an iron over all the tapes, just make sure all the tapes are down. It's been a couple months, maybe 3 or 4 months, yeah, maybe even longer than that, since this wing was completed to this stage. So I know just when we were putting it in here, I could feel just a couple spots where the tapes were just a little bit, I don't say raised up, but we just want to bring them down a little bit. I will say that when you go through all the paint phases all the way to the yellow, it's pretty amazing how the roughness that can be felt along the pinked edges just melts away, and they're smooth as can be. But if you miss one, if one of these little pinks pops up, oh, it's visible. We did have 2 or 3 of those where we swore up and down, both of us, that we had every single pinked edge, nicely glued down all the way through the primer, but obviously we didn't, because there's 1 or 2 where we definitely missed it, and now you can see them. We'll figure that out, but definitely not a game changer. Yeah, so Mike's got them masked off where we want them masked off. Everything else is going to go gray, white, and then yellow. So we'll show those steps. I'll try to make a video here about just gluing down the pinked edges and then spraying the EkoFill. So here we go. Just finished the ironing and just spraying off with air. Sure enough, there were plenty of pinked edges that needed to be ironed down a little more, or just little pieces of dust or sawdust or whatever that were on there. So that's now off. Now we can get going with the spraying part, and I might do like one wipe down here with a microfiber rag. I don't think I can use a tack cloth. I think the tack cloth may tack up with the glue. I don't know if it'll be that effective, but nothing's really coming off on my hand. I can feel just the slightest amount of roughness, almost feels like dust, but it isn't dust. It's probably just the glue that's in the fabric. So, yeah. That's where we're at, so let's get going on spraying. All right, finished up with 2 cross coats. Sorry I did not film it. Just got a little preoccupied there. Oh, that's interesting, look at that. That's basically a glue line. Focus. There we go. Yes, 2 cross coats. Went pretty good. I did notice I was getting a little bit of moisture in the line. It's raining outside today, and I think just the humidity is too high. Well, let's see here. Inside this room, it's 54 degrees humidity. Inside the shop, it's on the other side where we're pulling our heat from, 31 degrees. So 83 in the shop, 66 over here. It's cooler over here because I just evacuated some air. It'll warm back up to 70s soon. Anyway, it went fine though. Do want to figure out what we can do to make sure we're not getting any more moisture. We do have like a moisture trap here that's, it hit that, and the line's drained right now. And of course this one, you can already see some condensation in there, and then the beads have already turned pink. they're supposed to be blue. Now that's normal for us, but I would like to get it to the point where when it gets to here, we have very little, pink beads, meaning that we're able to trap any moisture before it even gets to there. So, yeah, here we are. I'll rotate it around. I actually think this one turned out better than the first wing. Yeah, it's pretty good. So, one trick that Marty told us over at Stewart Systems was to lay this down wet and at a lower pressure. So I was shooting more for like 21 to 23 PSI. Our gun isn't perfect at holding an exact PSI all the time, but pretty much that's what it was doing. That's what the setting was. Now, when you're shooting EkoFill, one thing to keep in mind is it's going to accentuate any errors. Any pinked edges that are showing. You can kind of see, like here's an example, all just the roughness of a pinked edge. Now some of that will just actually sand right off, so like this will sand right off and we can get it pretty smooth. But even just a little, there's a little fuzzy there. Whether that was in the air or in the fabric, who knows? I mean, that just sands right off, so it's not a big deal. But it accentuates anything. So on this side, there's not much. I mean, here's one example here. So this is where the glue itself was rough. For whatever reason, we just weren't able to get a really smooth lay down of glue. There's a couple different reasons why that happens. I won't go into detail about why that happens, but if you're familiar with the system, you know that it does happen, so I'll put it that way. Anyway, so that'll get smoothed out, both with the EkoFill and then when the primer actually does a really good job of making sure those spots get smoothed out good. And like I mentioned before, when you get to the final EkoPoly Premium, all this stuff just melts away. But let me show you an example of something where it accentuates any kind of error. So we'll go all the way around here. I was seeing this when we were spraying, or when I was spraying. Here's a spot, didn't clean it well enough. Thought I did, but just some kind of fuzzies were on there. But here's more of what's probably going to drive us nuts a little bit when we go to sand. Speaking of the glue here, got a little spot there. Got a spot there. This is probably where we tried to clean it off. Anyway, this will sand out fine, but just kind of annoying. And more so just on this, for whatever reason, that area had more of those spots. But there's something that was on here. So anyway, it just accentuates all the little flaws. And then you get to primer and pretty well hides them all, and then you get the final coat and you're all good. So for the most part, I could tell that did a good job laying down tapes. I mean, there's a couple that, you get something that lifts just a tad, and really it's just the corner. So the main pinked edge is laid down fine. You'll just get a corner, and a lot of that will just get softened right up when you sand. So anyway, I hope this is helpful for someone who's getting to this stage and wondering about how it sprays and whatnot. Both the EkoFill and the EkoPrime, they spray really easily. Both of them, though, you want to lay down wet. You can see as you're laying it down, you'll see the sheen, and then it'll go away quick, but you'll see a sheen, and then it goes away. Anyway, I guess I'm just repeating myself there. So it's different than the EkoPoly, where you don't want it to look wet until you actually get to the wet coat, if that makes any sense. So yeah, so it's a lower pressure to do that. So you couldn't do a lower pressure on the EkoPoly Premium, at least I don't think you could. Yeah, that's about what it looks like, and I'll go back to normal view. Since this is the EkoFill, this inboard area doesn't actually matter that much because it'll never see UV, but we still spray it. Just not as concerned about getting the metal parts. These metal parts were already actually finished painted, so I used the EkoPoxy So I did the primer and then the epoxy. So they're actually getting multiple layers of paint there, which is fine. Same with those fittings down there, the aileron fittings, and even the root fittings. So yeah, they've got plenty of paint on them, so I don't worry that much about making sure they're fully covered with EkoFill. They don't need the UV protection, and they already have you know, all the protection they need with the underlying paint. So yeah, so next step, we got to do one more cross coat. So this is 2 cross coats. So cross coat is 1, 2, that's 1 cross coat, and then 1, 2, and that's another cross coat. So we got to do one more, the 3rd cross coat, and that will get us the 3 that are required. This is a certified airplane, so we need to make sure we follow the system to the T. And then we'll go on to about 2 cross coats of primer, potentially 3. It just kind of depends how the primer turns out. And then we go into the EkoPoly. So we are going to sand between here and the next one. We'll sand with 320 and also the red Scotch-Brite. What we'll do is we'll hit the pinked edges with the Scotch-Brite. That's pretty good for that. And then inside the bays we'll hit with the 320. And the reason why you don't want to do too much here with 320, you can do a little bit. You just don't want to take off much of the gray, right? It's okay to kind of get some of the roughness off, but you don't want to take off too much gray. There we go.